Some time ago, a younger Izuku Midoriya stands up to Katsuki Bakugo in order to defend another child from being bullied. Katsuki doesn't take Deku seriously and mocks him for being quirkless and attempting to play hero. Back to present time, a now 14-year-old Izuku watches as heroes battle an enormous villain. One day long ago in Qingqing City, China, a luminescent baby was born with a unique power. Then, as time passed, the similar phenomena happened all over the world, and soon, the majority of the population had obtained superhuman powers known as quirks. Due to that, people were able to pursue heroism as a profession. As Backdraft keeps citizens at a safe distance, Kamui Woods battles the gigantic criminal. Kamui Woods states that the villain used his quirk for illegal purposes and uses lacquered chain prison on him in an attempt to stop his movement. However, MT Lady shows up and uses Canyon Cannon to defeat him. Several people start photographing the heroine as she declares that today is her debut and asks for the rest to be left up to her. Izuku starts rapidly taking notes about MT Lady's quirk, gigantification. A man wonders if he's aiming to be a hero, wishing him good luck, to which Izuku happily answers that he'll do his best. At Aldera Junior High, a teacher lectures the class about considering their futures. He says he will hand out the printouts on the students' desired life course, but knows they all want to be heroes. As the class starts using their quirks, he reminds them they're not allowed to use them during school hours. Katsuki tells the teacher not to group him with everyone else because he's superior. His classmates yell at him for that, but Katsuki tells them to shut up, and they remember he's aiming for UA High School. As the students comment about the difficulty of the exam, Katsuki declares he aced the mock exam and intends to surpass even All Might as the top hero. The teacher mentions that Izuku also wants to go to UA. The whole class then turns to face Izuku, erupting in laughter moments later. Izuku's classmates say there's no way he will be able to get into the hero course if all he can do is study. Izuku attempts to defend himself, but Katsuki aims an explosion at him, saying that Izuku shouldn't put himself in the same level as him since he's quirkless. Izuku explains that he is not trying to compete with Katsuki and is only trying to follow the dream he had since childhood because he will not know if he can accomplish it if he doesn't try. Katsuki says that the exam is impossible for him as the whole class looks down on Izuku, snickering. Elsewhere, a villain with a fluid, slime-like body is on the loose. As a crowd nearby watches him run away, a person comments that there is no end to villains. A man then answers that there indeed is an end to them, because he is there. Back at Izuku's middle school, he picks up his notebook while reading about the incident on his phone, but as he gets ready to get home and take notes, Katsuki approaches, exploding the notebook with his quirk. He then throws it out the window and tells Izuku, who does not reply to his taunts, to give up on UA and dive off the rooftop. As Izuku picks up his notebook, he remembers an incident from his childhood, watching a video of All Might making his debut as a hero, saving over 100 people. Izuku says he wants to be just like him but is later told by a doctor to give up. He has 2 joints in his pinky toe, which shows that he is quirkless. Later that day, Izuku watches the video again, crying, and asks his mother if he can still be a hero like All Might, to which she starts crying and apologizes. Back to the present time, Izuku is attacked by the runaway slime-like villain shown before while walking home. Suddenly, All Might appears and uses Texas Smash against the villain, a powerful wind pressure move that defeats the villain. Izuku vaguely sees All Might and faints shortly thereafter. Once Izuku wakes up, he's shocked to see his idol right in front of him. He asks for his autograph but sees it's already in his notebook. After seeing that Izuku is safe, All Might starts leading with the villain in his custody, but Izuku grabs onto his leg and ends up flying with him. When All Might realizes it, he tells Izuku to let go of him, but Izuku says he'd die if he did, so All Might looks for a place to land. All Might starts bleeding from his mouth and gets worried due to it. All Might lands on the rooftop of a building. Izuku asks the man if someone who doesn't have a quirk could also be a hero like him. Near Tatooine Station, Katsuki's friends comment that he may have gone too far bullying Izuku this time in reference to Katsuki telling Izuku to take a leap off the school's roof, to which he replies is Deku's fault, and he needs to learn how the world works. While they're talking, Katsuki is attacked by the same sludge villain that had attacked Izuku. Meanwhile, All Might and Izuku are talking on top of a building. Izuku asks the number one hero if someone who doesn't have a quirk could also be a hero like him. As Izuku explains his ambitions, All Might reaches his limit and transforms into a lanky human. Izuku is shocked to see his true form, and All Might explains his transformation by showing the boy a wound he'd gotten 5 years prior and gives the boy a lecture on the responsibilities of a pro hero. A pro must always be ready to risk their life, and so he cannot tell Izuku he can do it even while being quirkless. As he takes the stairs down the rooftop, he notices that the villain he had captured is missing and that there are explosions in another area of the city. At the scene of the explosions, Death Arms and other heroes are trying to fight the sludge villain attempting to take Katsuki's body, but to no avail. All Might watches, scolding himself for wasting time and now being unable to fight. Izuku thinks about All Might's words while walking down the street and approaches the crowd watching the explosions. He notices it's the villain All Might saved him from and realizes it must be his fault. The hero is now unable to save the new victim, mentally apologizing. However, after realizing the villain has Katsuki hostage, an erratic Izuku rushes to his rescue, while All Might is stunned at this as the other heroes attempt to stop him. Izuku remembers his notes and strikes the sludge villain with his bag, giving him an opening to get close to Katsuki. As Izuku desperately tries to help, Katsuki asks why he's there, and Izuku answers that it is because Katsuki's eyes were pleading for help, and he couldn't bear to watch him die. The sludge villain recovers and attempts to attack Izuku, but All Might protects him. All Might admits he scolded the boy for something he hadn't done himself, risk his life in order to save other people, as a pro hero. Inspired by Izuku's bravery, All Might uses his great strength to destroy the sludge villain with a Detroit Smash while freeing Katsuki at the same time. Afterwards, the heroes scold Izuku for risking his life and praise Katsuki for fighting back. Later that day, Katsuki confronts Izuku and tells him that he never asked to be saved and that Izuku shouldn't look down on him. Then, All Might meets up with Izuku again and says that the boy was the one who made the difference in the previous situation, despite being quirkless, and that he did the same thing other top heroes had done before, move before he could even think in order to save another person. At last, All Might tells a crying Izuku that he can become a hero. Izuku cries tears of joy at having his dream acknowledged by his idol. All Might tells Izuku that he is worthy to inherit his strength and proposes to give him his quirk, confusing Izuku. All Might says that his quirk can be passed down and has selected Izuku as his successor. All Might tells him that the name of his power is One for All. Izuku asks why All Might would give his quirk to him, to which All Might replies that he doesn't mind giving it to him and because he shined more than any of the other so-called heroes during the sludge villain's attack on Katsuki Bakugo. After All Might's explanation, Izuku doesn't hesitate to accept the proposal. All Might begins to train Izuku in order for his body to be strong enough to inherit One for All. All Might has Izuku clean the Takoba Seaside Bay of its trash as a great way to strengthen Izuku's body for the next 10 months, as UA's entrance exam begins by then, wanting Izuku to become a worthy vessel by that time. All Might gives Izuku an intense training schedule for the young man to follow in the coming months. During his training, Izuku overworks his body, and All Might notices that he has gone beyond the schedule they had agreed on. All Might scolds him for this, fearing it will have the opposite effect they were looking for. Izuku replies that he works so hard because he wishes to excel at UA and become a hero just like All Might. This gives All Might a brief insight into Izuku's passion for heroism. After 10 months of intense training, it is now the day of UA's entrance exam. Izuku has cleaned up Takoba Seaside Bay of its trash. As a result, Izuku's body is now more refined and muscular, which All Might claims is now a worthy vessel for One for All. All Might gives Izuku a piece of his hair to eat, much to Izuku's confusion. All Might says that it doesn't matter how he takes his DNA, but due to the entrance exam beginning in a few hours, he needs to inherit it immediately. Izuku arrives at UA High School in time for the entrance exam. As he is about to enter UA, Izuku trips but is saved by a girl's quirk. The girl wishes him good luck, which leaves him speechless, shocked that he managed to talk to a girl. Inside UA, Present Mike explains how the entrance exam works, which begins with a practical test and then afterwards a written test, saying that their goal in the practical test is to dispatch as many villains, which are actually robots, as they can to earn a high score. Izuku arrives at his designated battle center for the practical test of UA's entrance exam. Just before the practical test of the UA entrance exam begins, all the participants stand in awe over the sheer size of the training field. Izuku notices Achiko Uraraka, the girl who had saved him from falling earlier, and wants to thank her, but he is stopped by fellow participant, Tenya Ida. Tenya had yelled at him earlier to stop muttering in the auditorium. Tenya warns Izuku not to distract Achiko, while everyone else talks about how they've already counted him out of passing the exam. The exam suddenly begins, and everyone rushes inside the test area, leaving Izuku behind. He follows closely behind but is halted when an enemy robot worth 1 point attacks him. He is saved by Yuga Aoyama, who uses his naval laser to destroy the robot before moving on to others. Izuku scrambles around the area looking for robots to destroy but finds that the vast majority have been taken out by other participants. Elsewhere, the panel of UA judges discuss what it takes to pass the exam, including speed, strength, and a calm mind. As the test comes to an end, Izuku finds himself sitting at 0 points when a giant robot worth 0 points appears. Everyone flees in panic, while Izuku is paralyzed with fear. The robot smashes a few buildings and traps Achiko underneath the debris. As the robot moves closer, it threatens to crush the girl. Seeing the girl who helped him earlier in danger is enough to get Izuku up and rushing to her aid. Filled with adrenaline, Izuku conjures the power of One for All and uses it to leap high into the air and deliver a powerful smash to destroy the robot. All the other participants watch in awe, while the panel of UA judges praise Izuku for his self-sacrifice. Having used One for All for the first time, Izuku begins feeling the physical repercussions of his new quirk. His legs and his right arm are broken from his efforts. He free falls from the air and tries to use One for All to make a safe landing but is saved by Achiko before he hits the ground. The practical test is then declared over, much to Izuku's displeasure as he blacks out. The other participants comment on Izuku's quirk, calling him incredible, wondering if he was intentionally looking weak to fool them. Tenya is the only one to take notice of his heroism, and even questions if Izuku recognized saving others may have played a part in the exam all along. Izuku falls unconscious, but the school nurse and pro-hero, Recovery Girl, arrives to heal his injuries. 1 week later, Izuku receives his examination results, and after not talking to All Might during that time, he expects to fail. The school sent the aforementioned results via a holographic message inside an envelope, with All Might delivering the news. All Might apologizes for not contacting Izuku earlier and announces that he will be a new teacher at UA High. All Might explains that although Izuku did fine on the written test, he still scored 0 points on the practical, upsetting Izuku. All Might continues, showing him a video of Achiko asking Present Mike to give her points to Izuku because he saved her. All Might explains that the judges were looking for more than just defeating enemies. The judges rewarded rescue points for heroic deeds during the test. Izuku scored 60 rescue points, giving him more than enough to pass the exam. Following the practical test for the entrance exam, the judges panel reviews the students' scores. They take care to notice that Katsuki Bakugo scored the most points, but without a single rescue point. Meanwhile, Izuku Midoriya didn't score a single combat point. Izuku meets All Might at Takoba Municipal Beach Park, where All Might congratulates Izuku for being accepted into UA High School personally. All Might then tells Izuku that he will have to keep adjusting to the One for All quirk, using the image of an egg in the microwave as a basis. Come April, the UA academic year begins, and Izuku prepares to leave when his mother stops him and wishes him good luck. Izuku eventually arrives at Class 1A, hoping that perhaps Katsuki and Tenya aren't in his class, but these hopes are immediately dashed when he finds them both arguing inside. Tenya notices Izuku and introduces himself properly. Then, Achiko arrives and does the same while praising Izuku for saving her. Katsuki notices and recalls how he confronted Izuku after passing the test. He tries to bully Izuku for getting into UA, thinking he must have cheated without having a quirk, but Izuku stands up to him for the first time. Achiko is interrupted when Shota Aizawa arrives and reveals himself to the class as their homeroom teacher. He doesn't waste any time and hands out PE clothes to the students and leads them to the PE grounds. Shota explains that the class will participate in a quirk apprehension test that will test their quirks since they were not able to use their quirks in middle school. Shota uses Katsuki as an example. Katsuki only threw about 64 meters in middle school, but after using his quirk, Katsuki proceeds to throw over 700 meters. At first, the students are excited to participate, but Shota quickly shuts them down and announces that the student who ranks last in total points will be deemed hopeless and immediately expelled. The class is shocked by his announcement, and Achiko declares that the rule is unfair. Shota replies that the world is unfair, and it's a hero's job to combat that unfairness. While the quirk apprehension test begins, All Might worries that Shota will single out Izuku almost immediately and goes to watch it in person. The test is composed of students competing in a series of physical tests. During the trials, every student uses their quirks to excel, while Izuku struggles since he can only use one for all at 100% or not at all. Katsuki does well with each test, thanks to the versatility of his quirk. The class reaches the pitching test, and Izuku realizes this is the only test left where he can show off his abilities to avoid getting expelled. He tries to use his quirk to throw the ball, but it fails. Shota reveals his own quirk, the ability to erase other people's quirks. Izuku recognizes him as the eraser hero, Eraserhead. Eraserhead explains that he erased Izuku's quirk because of the severe drawback. He continues to say that Izuku's quirk will make him a liability and that he has no place at the school. Izuku is given one more throw, leaving him with the choice to either use one for all and fail the other tests or not use it and fail this one. Taking Shota's advice into account, Izuku throws his pitch, and at the last second, he concentrates one for all through his fingertips. The explosive throw gives Izuku a high score and impresses not only his classmates, but his teacher and All Might as well. All Might takes in the moment, impressed Izuku focused one for all into his fingertips. Izuku's action not only receives praise from All Might, but Achiko as well. Katsuki is enraged. He is not only confused about Izuku's new abilities but also enraged at the thought that Izuku has been lying all their lives. Katsuki lashes out in anger at Izuku but is caught in Shota's capture weapon. Shota warns the students not to make him use his quirk too much because it causes dry eyes. Then, he moves on to present the test results, in which Izuku placed last. Izuku fears that despite his hard work, he has failed out of the class anyway, but this is dispelled when Shota reveals the expulsion rule was a ruse to bring out the best in the class. He dismisses the class and has Izuku sent to Recovery Girl to heal his finger. Afterwards, All Might confronts his pupil's teacher, calling him a liar because he once expelled an entire class. Eraserhead explains that Izuku is above the 0 mark, and he can expel anyone who drops below the 0 mark at any time. Recovery Girl heals Izuku's finger, but at the cost of his stamina. The first day of school ends, and an exhausted Izuku runs into Tenya and Achiko, realizing that he has made some friends at school. The next day, Class 1A goes through a normal day of class until they reach their Hero Basic Training class. All Might leads the class to combat training, where they will get a chance to wear their hero costumes for the first time. After the class changes into their costumes, they gather at Grounds B, the very same training area where the practical test for the entrance exams was held. All Might goes through the rules. The class will be broken into 10 teams, half heroes and half villains. The villains will guard a nuclear weapon they intend on deploying, and the heroes must stop their scheme. If the heroes capture the villains or reach the nuclear core before time runs out, they win. If the villains manage to keep the nuclear core for the whole time or capture the heroes, they win. The teams are drawn from lots, and All Might announces that Team A, Izuku and Achiko, will face Team D, Katsuki and Tenya. Team D heads inside first and finds the fake missile inside. Still confused, Katsuki asks Tenya about Izuku's quirk, and Tenya replies with a question about why Katsuki hates Izuku so much. 5 minutes pass, and Team A enters the building, but before getting too far, Katsuki attacks them. His sneak attack only manages to damage half of Izuku's mask. The latter was able to evade while saving Achiko. Katsuki attacks again, but Izuku catches his swing. Then, Izuku shoulder tosses the surprised Katsuki into the ground, garnering praise from his fellow classmates watching from the projection room with all might. Izuku reveals he has been taking notes on Katsuki for years with the same notebook the latter burned. Deku and Kaken grew up in the same neighborhood and have known each other since they were little kids. Katsuki always felt superior to Izuku, especially after developing his quirk. However, Izuku still never treated Katsuki like he was better, and even tried to help Katsuki after he fell into a river. Katsuki is interrupted by a message from Tenya, asking for a status update. An angry Katsuki only tells him to defend the weapon before silencing his communication. Back on the offensive, Katsuki goes for a flying kick to Izuku's head but is countered by Izuku's hero knowledge once again. By using capture tape and the notes he took on both Katsuki and Eraserhead, Izuku is able to dodge. Achiko goes off to track down the hidden weapon while Izuku runs and hides from Katsuki to gain enough distance to form a plan. While searching for Izuku, Katsuki recalls their past and is enraged by the thought that Izuku believes Katsuki is weak like him. Meanwhile, Achiko reaches the hidden weapon with Tenya guarding it closely. She finds Tenya getting into a villainous character and accidentally reveals herself after laughing at him. Prepared for Achiko's quirk, Tenya has already removed all the items in the room, giving her no weapons to use against him. Izuku contacts Achiko and asks her where she is, to which she replies that she has found Tenya on the 5th floor. Katsuki finally catches up to Izuku and questions why he won't use his quirk. He warns Izuku not to underestimate him and reveals the gauntlets on his hero costume stores his nitro sweat. When enough of it builds up, he can create a massive explosion. Achiko uses the moment to make herself float towards the weapon, but Tenya's speed allows him to keep it from her. Without anything to use as weapons, Achiko is a step behind Tenya. Meanwhile, All Might warns Katsuki not to use that attack again, or else his team will lose. This forces Katsuki to resort to close-range combat. Izuku tries to fight back, but in close quarters, Katsuki proves that he is far stronger. Katsuki's fighting prowess garners him praise from the class, who are surprised how the tide has turned against Izuku. Katsuki once again demands that Izuku use his quirk, questioning whether Izuku feels he's too good for that now. This irritates Izuku, who expresses that he has always felt Katsuki is better, and that's why he wants to beat him. Filled with emotion, both fighters rush each other for a final clash. Knowing he can't defeat Katsuki at close range, Izuku uses One for All to smash the ceilings from every floor of the building. This smash creates enough debris for Achiko to use on the floor above. On the floors below, Katsuki is shocked to learn that his explosion severely injured Izuku. The latter left himself open because it was the only way he could win the match, conceding to Katsuki's incredible talent. The exercise between teams A and D has been completed and All Might declares Izuku and Achiko as the winners. Katsuki becomes distraught over the fact that he lost to Izuku, starting to hyperventilate at the thought of possibly losing again. All Might consoles Katsuki, telling him that it is time for his critique. While Izuku is taken to the nurse's office, All Might tells Katsuki that whether he won or lost, he must take a look back, reflect on the experience and move on with life. Back in the monitor room, All Might declares Tenya the MVP of the exercise and asks the class why they might think that is. Masahiro Ojiro and Toru Hagakure make up the villains team. They enter the building and gather around the payload on the 4th floor. The hero team, Shoto Todoroki, and Mizo Shoji enter the building minutes later. Mizo uses his quirk to discover Team I's location and informs his teammate. Shoto instructs Mizo to exit the building for his own safety and proceeds to use his own quirk to completely freeze the building and his opponents almost instantly. Mashireo and Toru's bare feet are stuck to the ground, giving Shoto an easy opening to touch the payload and secure the victory for Team B. Katsuki and the class watch in awe of his incredible quirk. Once all exercises are concluded, All Might praises his class for their efforts and sends them back off to their homeroom class. He narrowly escapes from the class before reverting from his hero form. All Might makes his way to the nurse's office where Recovery Girl complains about Izuku getting critically injured for the third time. She mentions that All Might shouldn't indulge Izuku just because he's inheriting one for all, but All Might tells her to keep her voice down because hardly anyone knows about the quirk. Izuku awakens later that day and returns to class. He is met by compliments from his classmates, but he notices that Katsuki isn't among them. Achiko tells Izuku that Katsuki has already left, and Izuku leaves to find him. He finds Katsuki just outside the school and decides to tell him the truth, that he obtained his quirk from someone else and had not been lying to Katsuki. However, Katsuki refuses to believe him and responds by admitting defeat. Katsuki's pride has clearly been damaged. He begins to cry while he explains that Shoto's powers, as well as Momo's critique, has made him realize he still has work to do. Before storming off, he warns Izuku that he's just getting started, and will not lose again. All Might arrives to console Katsuki again, but Katsuki refuses him and promises to surpass the #1 hero without his help. Somewhere unknown, a mysterious person reads a newspaper about All Might becoming a teacher. He poses the question of what would happen if the symbol of peace got snuffed out by villains. With news airing that All Might has joined UA High's faculty, the press interviews various students looking for a scoop. Eraserhead tries to send the reporters away, but they try to follow him inside, activating the UA defensive barrier. During Class 1A's homeroom class, Shota announces that the class needs to elect a representative. Izuku Midoriya is voted class representative, and Momo Yaoyorozu is chosen to be deputy representative. Later on, Izuku, Achiko, and Tenya sit together and have lunch in the mess hall. Achiko asks about Tenya's family and their wealth. Tenya hesitantly admits to being a member of the Ida hero family because he fears it will change how others view him. Tenya's brother is the turbo hero Ingenium, a famous pro hero. Their conversation is disrupted when the school alarms abruptly go off. A third-year student points out that this means someone has infiltrated UA by bypassing the defensive barrier. All students try to evacuate the mess hall at once, creating a major traffic jam in the outside hallway. He asks Uraraka to make him float and then boosts himself onto the emergency exit board before yelling for the students to calm down. He explains that the infiltration is only the press, relieving the chaotic situation. The students return to class after lunch and Izuku decides to announce his resignation as class president. Moved by Tenya's heroics, Izuku nominates him as the replacement. The majority of the class agrees, and Tenya becomes the new class representative. Meanwhile, the Udata faculty gathers to discuss that most of the Udata barrier has been disintegrated, indicating that someone did indeed infiltrate UA. Elsewhere in the city, pro heroes Kamui Woods and MT Lady are dealing with a hostage situation created by Habit Headgear. The situation appears perilous, but All Might suddenly arrives and defeats the villain using a Missouri Smash. He quickly moves on towards UA but takes several detours to do hero work. Back in Class 1A, Shota announces that the class will participate in a rescue exercise for their basic hero training class. He instructs the class to suit up and board a bus to head off to an off-campus location for the exercise. While riding on the bus, the students discuss each other's quirks. The heroes in training arrive at a large training facility, greeted by the famous rescue hero 13. Her greeting includes an introduction to her facility, the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, USJ, and a small speech about how the young students must use their quirks to save people rather than fight. 13's words are completely deterred when a large group of villains suddenly arrive through a black portal. Villains appear in the plaza of the USJ, led by 3 mysterious villains. One of them notices that All Might is not among the class. One of the villains, Tamura Shigaraki, is disappointed that All Might is absent. He ponders if the symbol of peace will arrive after they've murdered the students. Eraserhead takes charge, ordering 13 to evacuate the students and contact UA High. The villain knows Eraserhead's quirk can't cancel out his own and attacks. Eraserhead easily counters him by keeping the villain at a distance using the capturing weapon. But the villain Kurogiri stops them by using his warping quirk. He introduces himself as a member of the League of Villains and discloses that their goal is to kill All Might. Katsuki and Eijiro Kirishima hastily attack him but to no avail. Before 13 can use her quirk on him, Kurogiri separates the class by warping them into the various simulation zones. Izuku is transported underwater in the shipwreck zone. Shoto, Katsuki, Eijiro, and several other members of Class 1A fight back against the villains after being transported into their own respective simulation zones. At UA in the nurse's office, All Might tries to contact 13 and Shota but is unable to. All Might wants to go to the USJ in hero form soon, but Principal Nizu keeps him occupied. Nizu believes All Might needs to be a more responsible teacher and lectures him for exhausting himself with hero work. Back at the USJ, 13 outlines that Tenya needs to run back to the school for help because they are unable to call for help from the USJ. Tenya is hesitant, believing that leaving his classmates behind is disgraceful. His classmates restore his confidence and encourage him to use his quirk to save others as rescue training was intended. Kurogiri overhears 13's plan and tries to intervene, but the space hero uses her quirk to suck him into a black hole. Using information from his peers on their quirks, Izuku creates his plan. A villain uses his water manipulation quirk to strike the ship and breaks it into pieces. Before the ship sinks, Izuku enacts his plan. He jumps off the ship and uses Delaware Smash on the surface of the water to make it spread out and collect rapidly back together. The converged water traps the villains a vortex mixed with Minoru's sticky spheres which keep them stuck to each other. Izuku, Minoru, and Tsuyu escape the shipwreck zone, having just defeated a group of villains there with the combined efforts of their quirks and quick thinking. They discuss their next course of action and agree that they should head for the exit and avoid the Central Plaza entirely. The Central Plaza is where Eraserhead is battling a large group of villains. Back near the USJ entrance, Eraserhead continues to repel villains at the Central Plaza until he is confronted by Tamura. The ringleader manages to damage Eraserhead's elbow using his decay quirk. Eraserhead swiftly retreats, as Tamura points out the weakness of his quirk but compliments him on lasting before the hero is suddenly challenged by a large, monstrous villain. 13 tries to use her quirk to destroy Kurogiri, but he turns it on her and puts the rescue hero out of commission. Tenya tries to escape through the exit and Kurogiri cuts him off. Mizo Shoji grabs Kurogiri, giving Tenya a path to the exit. Izuku, Tsuyu, and Minoru reach the Central Plaza only to find that their teacher has been defeated by the bioengineered monster Nomu. Meanwhile, at the other zones, members of Class 1A continue to battle against the villains. Tenya makes a mad dash for the exit, but Kurogiri remains hot on his tail. Having allowed Tenya to call for backup, Kurogiri declares the villain's plans ruined and warps back to Tamura's side. He informs his leader that 13 has been dealt with, but he allowed a student to escape, much to Tamura's frustration. Knowing that their group can't fight off reinforcements, the villains decide to retreat, but not before killing the remaining students. Tamura swiftly accosts Tsuyu and her friends, nearly ending her with decay before Eraserhead uses his quirk to stop the villain. Trying to save his friend, Izuku attempts to use a smash on Tamura, but it is intercepted by Nomu. Izuku notices that his arm wasn't broken as a result, but also that the attack had no effect on Nomu. Tamura attacks the students again, but they are saved by the distraction of All Might's sudden arrival. Having run into Tenya on his way to the USJ, All Might knows all about the conflict occurring there. He rips off his tie and blazer as he shouts his catchphrase, "Everything will be all right because he is here." He rushes through the Central Plaza at super speed to recover the injured Eraserhead, defeating the remaining villains there in a flash. He moves on to secure Izuku, Tsuyu, and Minoru from the clutches of Tamura and Nomu. All Might starts by striking Nomu with a Carolina Smash, but Nomu absorbs the impact and counters with a punch. All Might evades and delivers a punch of his own, but this attack has no effect as well. Tomura reveals that Nomu's quirk is shock absorption, and he was made to fight and kill All Might. Alert to All Might's peril, Izuku rushes over to aid him. Kurogiri cuts Izuku off and prepares to warp him away, but Katsuki unexpectedly appears and blasts the villain with an explosion before pinning him to the ground. Shoto arrives and freezes Nomu's body, careful to avoid All Might. Tomura is disappointed with Kurogiri, who has allowed Katsuki to exploit his weakness. Katsuki realizes that Kurogiri has neck armor to protect his physical body, and uses the smoke from his quirk to hide it, but he cannot resist physical attacks if they're well aimed. Katsuki has him pinned down by this armor and threatens to blow him up if he moves. Tomura compliments the students on their efforts and orders Nomu to save Kurogiri. The students watch in horror as Nomu breaks free from his icy prison and regenerates his frozen limbs. Even with his powers declining rapidly, All Might engages Nomu in a ferocious fistfight. He goes beyond 100% to vigorously bypass the limit of Nomu's endurance. They trade blows and battle across the USJ at incredible speeds, creating shockwaves with each strike that keep anyone else from getting near them. After throwing Nomu onto the ground from high in the air, All Might lands and gives his final speech to the monster. He tells Nomu to remember the words plus ultra, and delivers a dynamic smash to send the villain flying out of the USJ, defeated. All the students watch in awe of All Might's strength. The symbol of peace explains it took 300 blows to defeat Nomu, but it would have only taken 5 in his prime. He continues, declaring that the League of Villains are finished, much to Tomura's displeasure. In the mountain zone of the USJ, Denki Kaminari is taken hostage by Tesla, a villain who is unaffected by his quirk. The villain threatens to kill Denki if the others don't surrender but admits to having a soft spot for electric types like him. Momo realizes that this must be the same villain jamming their communications. Kyoka attempts to distract the villain by talking while she attempts to plug one of her earphone jacks into the aiming gear on her legs. The electric criminal sees through her plan and warns them again, forcing the two to surrender. Meanwhile, All Might has managed to defeat Nomu, but his hero form is at its limit. He is immobilized and tries to bluff in order to scare Tomura and Kurogiri away. Tomura panics after witnessing Nomu's defeat, believing they have no chance to kill the symbol of peace. However, Kurogiri notes the significant amount of damage to All Might and reassures his colleague that they can still kill All Might. They attack, but Izuku breaks his legs using one for all to intercept them in time. He prepares to use a smash on Kurogiri's weak point, but he warps Tomura's hand through his body near Izuku's face. Before he can use his quirk to harm Izuku, Tomura is shot in the arm. The villain holding Denki hostage is also shot. Both were shot by pro-hero Snipe, who has arrived with Tenya Ida to save everyone. The heroes spread out and use their quirks to defeat any remaining villains. Seeing as they are outnumbered, Tomura declares that the mission is officially over. He is shot several times by Snipe, and then Kurogiri tries to use his quirk to help both of them escape. Kurogiri is slowed down by 13's quirk, but he eventually manages to transport himself and Tomura away. Izuku laments that he was unable to do anything to help, but All Might reassures Izuku that the few vital seconds bought by Izuku's intervention saved his life. Aijiro goes to check on Izuku's legs, but pro-hero Cementos stops him to prevent the young man from seeing All Might's weak form. He sends Aijiro to gather his classmates by the exit. All Might thanks Cementos for concealing his identity, and Cementos replies that he and Izuku should have their wounds treated in the infirmary. Kurogiri transports himself and Tomura to their secret hideout. An injured Tomura groans about his wounds, and informs his master that the information they received about All Might's weakening was false. On a blank monitor, a mysterious voice tells Tomura that the report wasn't false and Tomura was simply overzealous. Class 1A gathers outside the USJ and investigator Naomasa Tsukachi informs them that other than Izuku, no student sustained major injuries. The students discuss their experiences fighting villains amongst themselves, and Tsuyu inquires about 13 and Eraserhead. The investigator tells them 13 and Eraserhead were critically injured, but are not in life-threatening condition. After receiving a report about the police capturing Nomu, the investigator leaves for the nurse's office. There he finds All Might and Izuku being treated by Recovery Girl. All Might introduces Naomasa as his best friend on the police force and reveals he knows all about All Might's identity. Izuku thanks All Might for saving them, but All Might replies with praise for the young heroes in training. He believes each of them fought bravely at the USJ and will make fine pro-heroes one day. Later that night, Izuku is released from Recovery Girl's infirmary with his wounds treated. He finds Achiko and Tenya waiting for him outside the school and walks home with them. Elsewhere, an unidentified figure standing on a rooftop stares down at the city.